Nancy Drew: The Curse of Blackmoor Manor is the 11th game in the Nancy Drew series, and it begins with Nancy visiting England to check up on an unhappy newlywed woman named Linda in a very old manor. There she meets Mrs. Drake, a very posh and snarky old woman who would do anything to keep possession of her centuries-old family home, her granddaughter Jane Penvlin, a very creepy and lonely child.
It's only children, DW. A lonely child is what you're gonna be when I sell you.
Ethel Bossany, Jane's tutor and possible cult leader, and Nigel, a historian writing a book on the Penvlin family who is desperate for a bestseller. Nancy is thrust into a mystery with an abundance of secret passageways, puzzles, and hauntings. And although this is where the game begins, the real story begins much earlier. Spoilers. Duh. The Penvlin family history. It all started in the 15th century when Randolph the Red, so named for his red hair, and his son glanced up into the heavens and watched a meteor crash down to Earth. This medieval man takes this as a sign, then decides that this space rock has vague magical powers, which he claims helped him win the Battle of Poitiers. For his military prowess, King Edward III grants Randolph a region of land called Penvlin.
That's how we got our name.
Randolph's son, Odo, was apparently nothing like his father and was more akin to farming and cows. He was about that cottagecore life, and I guess his father thought that was so cringe. But Odo's son Milo was almost a complete carbon copy of his grandfather, even inherited his red hair. The grandson and grandfather made weapons in the forge on the Penvlin land, which Milo then uses to win more battles and earn more land for the Penvlin family. Randolph and Milo's similarity and bond started the family tradition that the knowledge of the meteorite would only be passed down to every other Penvlin generation, because Odo was just that cringe. Milo had a son named Hugo, but of course to the Penvlins, nobody cares about him. The only thing important about Hugo is that he had a son named Albert. Albert was a scientist and had a keen interest in the meteorite. He was so interested that he made a secret laboratory around the forge in order to study it and practice alchemy. He believed that the meteorite had the possibility of being the Philosopher's Stone. That's Sorcerer's Stone to us Americans. He constructed the alchemy door, the trap above the meteorite, and the moving rooms to confuse would-be trespassers and future girl detectives. He also leaves a light source for the dark tunnels, and Nancy just picks up this mysterious thing with no concern that it is a glowing rock and probably most definitely radioactive. Albert also makes the Mutus Liber, or Silent Book, in which he documents his great-great-grandfather's story, how to light the forge, and leaves blank pages for his descendants to add their own clues. Albert has a son named Edmund, but again, who cares, and Edmund has a son named Charles. Charles, seen here with the Mutus Liber, was a prominent judge in his time. He is the one who started the family tradition of each initiated adding their own puzzles and riddles to the manor. He locked the meteorite behind a vault and wrote in the Penvlin journal that the key had to be made using the forge. He established the 6 columns, Jupiter, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, and Mars, and made the tapestry and sliding tiles to hide the Jupiter key. He also wrote in the journal instructions for future initiates to hide the final key symbols in their coat of arms. He also assigned the Bossany family to be the teachers and mentors to all future initiates. The Bossany family also plays a role in the puzzles. The chant and oil pouring ritual is not mentioned in any of the Penvlin writings, so we have to assume that the tradition is held by the Bossany family, which means that the Bossany family is essential to lighting the forge. That is, of course, an initiate just knows where the pit of oil is in the manor, which shouldn't be too hard considering that it is a large hole in the middle of the floor. Back to Charles. After his son's death and many years on the bench watching men oppress women, he made it so the firstborn daughters of the Penvlin family could also inherit the property. That being said, his own firstborn daughter did not inherit the manor, since her portrait and coat of arms are replaced by the store. The Penvlin initiates really just effed over their own kids. The manor was actually inherited by her son, Thomas, who Nigel claims to have started the rumors of the Blackmoor beast because Thomas could, quote, take animal form. It is possible that he was given this title because in his lifetime he had 3 wives who all died.
All 3 of my wives died in the same way on the same staircase. Each death learning from and improving upon the death before it.
Thomas follows in his grandfather's footsteps and creates the singing staircase that holds the key to his grandfather's poem sliding puzzle and the water well door puzzle. Thomas then has James, who was flamboyant and never married, and did not have any children of his own until he was very old, and then found a baby girl left on his doorstep. That girl was Eleanor. Eleanor was the first female owner of Blackmoor Manor, and with her prominent position fought against Judge Cromwell's evil policies. She even helped his enemies escape England with the Mercury statue her father created. How she managed to help people with a movable Mercury statue in her house, I couldn't tell you. Her addition to the Penvillin puzzles was the wand for the Mercury column, which she locked in the statue's hand. For her aggressive fight for justice, she had to flee from the manor, leaving it abandoned. Eleanor fled to France, where her son, Edward, obviously could not inherit the manor, and has his own son named Corbin. Corbin secretly returns to Blackmoor with the help of Lydia Bossany, and he continues the family tradition. It is in this time where people around the manor start to hear strange sounds and noises coming from inside what should be an abandoned manor, and starts rumors, which are only heightened when Lydia Bossany desperately tries to keep people away from the manor. Lydia teaches Corbin about his family, and Corbin makes his own puzzles, while not actually owning the manor. He creates all 3 gargoyle puzzles: the secret door with the spinning gargoyle, the magnet puzzle to light the forge with his grandmother's wand, and the gargoyle fire double door puzzle. He also makes the rune door riddle/curse with his grandmother's name as the solution. Corbin's son, Philippe, later buys back the manor with the riches he acquired as the pirate Silver Snickersnee, and then has a daughter named Penelope. Penelope was quite popular and gave back the family its good reputation within the community. She was also quite the libertine. She created the puzzle to give heir to the forge with the Aurelius statue, and the Go Fish game with Betty to get the Venus key. Penelope has Martha, who cares, who has Bridget, not the cricket one, who loved astronomy and astrology. She adds to the family tradition with the moon box with the telescope lens, the Greek gods tapestry, and the constellation seat, which holds the key to the moon column. Bridget has Richard, who cares, who has Edward, who was an explorer and I guess a crappy father. He wasn't close with his son, but I suppose that's true for most of the Penvillins. His contribution was the slide with the bullseye hiding the Saturn key. He also created the dragon puzzle to hide the secret passageway and lock both that and the slide behind the door with his crest. Edward had William, who cares, who has John, who
may have developed some of the plants that are in here himself.
John created the frog book for the well puzzle that holds the Mars key. He also made the Lulu door, since he is the one who presumably brought her back from Blackmoor on one of his explorations. But what will happen when this incredibly old bird dies? Why John entrusted the secrets of his centuries-old family treasure to a bird? Your guess is as good as mine. Also, John has a few children, and one of them was Esther, and Jane says this.
Esther Penvillin Romberg, born in 1897 and died in 1951. Her friends called her Polly.
I'm sure it's just a play on words like polyester, but Lulu also says this.
Polly is a stupid bird. Polly is a stupid bird.
And it makes me think that poor Esther was called names by her father's own bird. Like, seriously, if you were born in the wrong generation of the Penvillins, you were fucked. Anyway, John has Malachi, who cares, who has Alan and Mrs. Drake. Alan was a computer whiz who creates the secret door to hide the slide behind and sets up the hidden ghost game to keep it a secret. Alan, of course, has Hugh, who marries Jane's mother, and they have a little girl who's a psycho. Then he gets remarried to Linda. Throughout all the many years, each of the initiates add to Charles's journal and the Mutus Liber. The Mutus Liber first shows the image of Randolph and Odo watching the meteor crash to Earth. This page hints at the idea that the weapons made from the forge were magical because of the meteorite. The symbols signify the elements needed in order to light the forge: water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, the 4 nations lived in harmony. This page shows the 6 columns, and this page is used to solve the water puzzle. This page is a hint to the Aurelius puzzle. This page shows how to light the gargoyles. This page is to solve the final key puzzle, most recently updated by Alan. This page is used to hint at the trap above the meteorite. And all of this Nancy figures out in a span of 3 days tops. She also uncovers the culprit of the game, Jane, whose crimes involve harmless pranks, like slowly poisoning her stepmother with prescription-strength allergy pills and gaslighting her into thinking that she's cursed. Jane also spikes Linda's hand lotion with her uncle's hair growth serum, which she claims she needed for an already dead hamster.
You had a guinea pig?
Yes, but it died.
Linda full-on believes she's turning into the Blackmoor beast, which only proves how strong the power of persuasion can be. Like it can make a girl detective have creepy nightmares without a gas furnace to blame it all on. But of course Nancy, being the great detective that she is, discovers Jane's plot. Only after Jane tells her everything. It was actually really lucky for Jane that Nancy put a stop to her pranks on Linda, because if Linda left, Blackmoor would have fallen into the hands of Mrs. Drake due to the 6-month clause stating that the spouse of the inheritor has to live there for at least 6 months or else the manor gets to go to the next in line, Mrs. Drake. Which is a strange thing to have in an inheritance agreement, but very convenient in making Mrs. Drake a red herring. If Jane succeeded in kicking Linda out, she would have never discovered the meteorite.
Thank you.
Shut up, you creepy, creepy child! And no more fucking games, goddammit! Anyway, that was Nancy Drew Explained, The Curse of Blackmoor Manor. Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments. And if you liked it, maybe please leave a like and subscribe for more videos. Bye!